Hi friends, Travis here, and in today's video we're going to talk a little bit about MSC Cruises. If you've never heard of them before, they're a cruise line that has a couple of ships here in the US, but they're currently in expansion mode, so I think that's a name we're going to hear a lot more over the next couple of years. The company itself is huge. They're most known for their shipping kind of side of things, where they have like container ships that ship things back and forth. But their cruise line is also a lot bigger in Europe than it is in the US, at least for now. But some people who have heard of and experienced MSC don't often have the nicest things to say about the cruise line, so we're going to try to unpack some of that today. If you're new to the channel, I want to welcome you, and of course, if you've been here before, welcome back. If at any point you like what you see, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, all those things. And without further delay, let's go ahead and move right on into it. Alright, so first and foremost, I want to say that this is coming from an American's perspective. I've only experienced MSC, Royal Caribbean, and Carnival, so obviously there are a lot of European cruise lines and things that I'm not able to pull, kind of experiences from. And so I'm gonna kind of generalize probably a little bit in certain points. If I'm wrong, or if you have insight coming from a European perspective, or if you've experienced MSC in Europe and have some additional things to add, feel free to comment those things down below. This video is kind of designed to help people more than anything. We are kind of talking crap a little bit on top of it, but the idea is to be as helpful and constructive as possible. So my first ever cruise was on the MSC Meraviglia. I've since been on an additional 9 cruises across 3 different cruise lines, so I have a good feel, I think, for MSC. I'm about to go on my 4th MSC cruise next month, so I thought, how can I reapproach this topic? I've tried to make this video before and it didn't really work out. I think I was trying to be a little bit too structured with it and whatever. I'm just going to talk to you all today. So that's kind of, how we're going to approach this. I think the first reason that some Americans have a hard time with MSC is because of their protocols and procedures. And that's not just COVID related. Obviously, all the cruise lines have protocols in place for COVID. But I think even before COVID, and definitely since, things have changed in the cruising industry, MSC just does things differently. It's a very Italian-oriented kind of approach compared to like Carnival and Royal, which are, much more American mindset. And I think that confuses people or turns people off or makes people feel some type of way. Like, for example, right now, most of the cruise lines here in the US are not doing a standard muster drill. They have it electronically. They have it, you watch a video on your TV, like those kinds of things. And MSC does have some of that incorporated into their muster drill, but they also have a pretty traditional way of doing their muster drill. So like you do have to meet at your, assembly station at a designated time, and everybody goes at the same time, and it's this big kind of ordeal and, whatever. And, Royal and Carnival are not doing it that way. They're having you go directly to your muster station immediately when you get on board, which I think makes things more streamlined and easier. So when it comes to MSC, that feels a little clunky, I think, for Americans. Even though in the before times, all the cruise lines made you go to your muster station during the muster drill with your life jacket and all that. But MSC is still kind of being a little bit traditional in that sense. Also, another thing is that MSC makes all of their announcements in multiple languages. On my most recent cruise with them, all the announcements were made in English and Spanish, but I know depending on who's on board, they may have announcements in French, they may have it in Portuguese, etc. And, I've heard of MSC Cruises that have made announcements in like 5 or 6 different languages. And that can be kind of jarring if you're not used to that sort of thing. So that international vibe is definitely not something that we're as used to on American cruise lines. And while I don't think that people dislike that necessarily, I think it does kind of like make things a little bit longer and drawn out and kind of more chaotic and harder to understand. And also, if you're the type of person that likes to mix and mingle with your fellow passengers, it might not be as easy to do that on an MSC cruise if there's, 40 different nationalities on board and, whatever. That's one of the things that I personally love about MSC. It does have a very international feel to it. I feel like I get more culture in a week on an MSC ship than I would like a month in Europe. And so that is a pro, but also a con for some people. And I know like Carnival specifically, a lot of the people coming from that cruise line feel like MSC is kind of stuffy and uptight and whatever. And I do get that. I do see that. But also it's very elegant. It feels upscale. But then the vibe is really relaxed and they don't put a lot of pressure on you to be dressed up and all those things. And I think there's a misconception in that as well, that some people think, oh, MSC's so fancy, I don't want to, it's not my vibe. I want that sort of like fun ship, go with the flow, like, exciting party kind of atmosphere. And you definitely don't get that as much on an MSC ship. And then the other thing is entertainment. I think because MSC attracts a more international clientele, I think it's a little bit harder for them to have some of the entertainment things that we're used to on like Royal and Carnival, like comedians, for example. Comedy doesn't translate into multiple languages. So if you have a strictly English speaking comedian or, whatever, a lot of the people on board aren't going to be able to go to that event and they're definitely not going to understand the humor behind it and etc. So a lot of the entertainment on MSC is music and dance based. But it feels a little bit classical in its approach. It's not a fun, crazy, over the top production. It's more, sometimes even opera based or, that sort of like traditional song and dance kind of format. And so some people find some of the theater shows on MSC boring because of that. I will say that I was on MSC Divina a month or so ago, and that entertainment was very, very high quality. The singers were great, the dancers were awesome, the productions were, visually beautiful and, somewhat upbeat, but also had their tender moments. So yeah, very nicely done. Compared to my first cruise on the Meraviglia when they had kind of like their bead squad doing the entertainment, things have definitely improved in that front. But one thing I do know that MSC is looking to improve is having like Cirque du Soleil style production shows where there's like acrobatics and, things that like Royal's doing on the Oasis class ships and stuff. And I really hope that that does catch on. I know that the Meraviglia has the carousel lounge, which is equipped for some of that stuff. And some of the people that I was on Meraviglia with in December were disappointed that that was still suspended. But I think a lot of that stuff is coming back now, so I'm excited to see that. Now let's talk about the food. I think this is where MSC falls the most flat for most Americans. It's not that the food isn't good. Quality-wise, I've never had an issue with anything I've gotten on an MSC ship, and as a matter of fact, I think the MDR experience, the dining room experience, is the best on MSC compared to Royal and Carnival. But the thing that is an issue on MSC ships currently is just a lack of variety. They don't have things like El Loco Fresh and Blue Iguana and Guy's Burgers and all those things that we really like as Americans. The kind of like fast food, quick service concept isn't as much of a thing on MSC. You've got the main dining room, you've got the buffet, and then you've got specialty dining, which brings me kind of into my next bullet point, and that's the fact that a lot of people feel like MSC tries to upsell too much. And so I would say yes, they do that a lot, but I don't think, in my experience, that it's been any more than any other cruise line. Like, the second I got on Oasis of the Seas, there was someone approaching me with a little, packet of information about all their signature dining options, and the second I got on Carnival, all they talked about that first day is, getting a drink package. So it's happening on other cruise lines as well, but MSC, I think, does it in a way that's a little bit more disruptive and abrasive. Like, you'll be sitting in the buffet eating, and next thing you know, like 3 people have come up to you asking if you're interested in specialty dining and etc. So my advice to you on that is that you can say no, and it doesn't offend them or hurt their feelings if you say no. And they're not as pushy as they seem. All you have to do is straight up say, you know what, we've already talked to someone about this, we're not interested, thank you, but no thanks. It's part of their job to go around and do that, and so, they're just doing their job. And I don't think that that detracts from the experience enough to be a huge negative, you know? Especially since so much is already included on an MSC ship compared to other ships. Like, for example, they have an all-in drinks and Wi-Fi ticket that you can buy. So in your cruise fare, it includes drinks and Wi-Fi, and for a very, very, like, small fraction of the, you know, cost that it would be to do it, you know, even in advance or especially when you get on board. You know, they have upgrade incentives. They have all these things that are worked into, you know, the kind of cruise portion of your trip, that when you get on board, there's not a lot that you have to buy. Obviously, gratuities come out every day, and beyond that, you don't even really have to buy anything. You could walk away with a $0 folio if you want to. But it's just a matter of how you approach it. If you're easily persuaded into buying extra stuff, then, you know, you're probably going to end up with a premium dining package or something, because you're going to get approached several times. But then on Carnival, for example, like, they're constantly coming up with, like, souvenir shot glasses or souvenir cups that you can get, and they don't tell you that those aren't included in your drink package, and then you get charged $20 for a cup and then $10 for a drink to put in it, you know? So MSC is not the only one doing that, and, you know, people swear up and down that it doesn't happen as much on other cruise ships, and I have to disagree. And the last thing I'll say is that you have to approach MSC as kind of like its own thing. Because the MSC Meraviglia was my first cruise, I didn't have anything to compare it to, and because of that, I was able to enjoy and experience it for what it was, for full face value. But if you're coming in with baggage of other cruise lines and how they do things and, you know, etc., you're definitely gonna have a bad time. But it is what you make of it. They have the same itineraries as you see on other cruise lines. Their private island is amazing. I think one of the best in the Bahamas. And while there's not as many options for food, the food quality is good. You can definitely find things that taste good, and you're not going to go hungry unless you make yourself go hungry. And, you know, I think the staff is some of the best in the industry. They really do know what they're doing. There's a certain kind of glamour with, like, Swarovski staircases and the overall kind of, like, just beautiful vibe of the ships. I think that their ships are some of the prettiest on the ocean, and they're only getting prettier, they're only getting nicer. They're spending billions of dollars to expand their fleet and, you know, sparing no expense, to be honest. You know, their staterooms are pretty large, their bathrooms have showers with doors on them, things like that. So there are a lot of nice touches on MSC that you don't get on other cruise lines, at least in America. And so, yeah, I'm a fan, I'm a stan. If you've watched my channel at all, you know that's not a secret by any means. But I do agree with some of the things. Like, I think they need to come up with a couple of quick service fast food concepts to add to their ships. That would change the game for them completely, I guarantee it. And also their customer service, like the one that you call into before your cruise and stuff, isn't the greatest. I have a separate experience that I'm going to talk about that, you know, because I've had to call customer service multiple times with MSC, and every time I have a different sort of experience with them. So I understand that. And yeah, they're not perfect. There are some glitches. They do things a little bit old school in some ways. I think they need a little bit of a refresh in sort of the way that they approach certain things in the American market, but they're working on it. They're expanding, they're getting better. MSC today is way different than it was 5 years ago, and 5 years from now, it's going to be different than it is now. And that's a good thing. But yeah, that's it. If you have anything else to add, if you've experienced MSC and didn't have the best experience, comment down below. If you've experienced MSC and you loved it, let me know. If you're on the fence about trying MSC because you've heard certain things, you know, let me know, like, what concerns you have, or did this video help you in any way, or are you more scared now? Yeah, let's open up that discussion. And yeah, but I want to thank you all for watching. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, all those fun things. We'll talk soon, and y'all have a good night.